Hey guys, I am your tour guide, Kalltorak. Today, I am bringing you my Infinite Ignite Arctic Armor Gemling. This build has one of the coolest interactions I have seen in Path of Exile 2 yet. The core of this build is not actually Arctic Armor, but self-immolation to get an infinite duration ignite, kind of. Shout out to this Reddit user for finding this mechanic. I'll have a link to the thread down below. Self-immolation reads, ignites, you cause or reflected back to you. This sounds bad, but you can reduce the magnitude of ignite on yourself by 100%. Very easily actually with these passives. When combined with Crackle Creep, we get a really cool infinite looping ignite. Crackle Creep reads, ignites you inflict spread to other enemies that stay within 1.5 meters for 1 second. So essentially you hit really hard with a skill that ignites. That ignite gets reflected back onto yourself. This ignite on yourself counts as an ignite you inflicted for Crackle Creep. So you essentially become an ignite aura bot. As long as you stay near an enemy before your ignite expires, it will loop forever. All you have to do is get that big ignite, then you just dance around enemies watching them burn. So the TLDR is hit hard with skill, this skill ignites big, you big ignite yourself, and then you walk around as a big firebot. Now the main goal is to add on something that just hits really hard to cause a big ignite. I was about to start my Arctic Armor Blood Mage with Trample Toe before Red Panda in the Thorns Discord told me about this technique. So it was an easy pivot to this style. Now I am doing this on a Gemling for many reasons, but let's talk about Infernalist first. I think Infernalist is way easier to do this on, and probably way better. Their Ascendancy passive makes it to where all damage you cause ignites. For me, as a Gemling, I have to go Avatar of Fire with Arctic Armor, but Infernalist doesn't have to do this. Infernalist can also play crit Arctic Armor way easier for bigger Arctic Armor hits. The main reason I didn't go Infernalist was because I have already done Arctic Armor builds with Infernalist. Sorry, lame reason, but I wanted to do it on something else. Gemling is pretty amazing for this build. If we need Arctic Armor to ignite, well, Avatar of Fire is one of the best ways to do that, and that's pretty close to the Gemling starting area. If you were to do this on a Blood Mage, it would be a little bit more awkward of a path to get to Avatar of Fire. If we need Arctic Armor to ignite, well, Avatar of Fire is just the best way for us to do that. So yeah, as a non-Infernalist, the only way you're doing a big ignite is this way, and Gemling is parked really close to it. Gem quality is also massive for Arctic Armor. Every 20 quality is +1 stage to Arctic Armor, which is more damage. I'm currently at 40 quality, and with the right gear and passives, you could hit 60 quality. Add on the +2 gem levels for Arctic Armor, which is where we are getting all of our damage, and yeah, this build fits really well on Gemling. Gem Studded is amazing with a no critical damage bonus, so we're armor stacking with this. And Integrated Efficiency was actually a very big damage increase despite using only 2 red gems inside Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor is hitting hard, which is the most important thing for this build. Scaling Ignite magnitude isn't near as important. We really just want Arctic Armor to slap, which it does. I leveled this build, and I'll have a full leveling guide, but it is really weird and I do not recommend it for most people. There are a few bosses that never melee, which I was able to kill them with Incinerate. The main reason though I don't recommend leveling this is because it's just kind of jank to get set up early. If you want to start leveling this in Act 2, you're going to have to buy a cheap From Nothing. It's cheap, but From Nothing leveling is kind of lame. And then the Prism of Belief for Arctic Armor has already spiked in price since I started streaming this build. There were a bunch for a few Divine, but they are all listed for 40 plus Divine now. Sorry. So getting a +3 is really hard right now. +2 is cheap still, but we'll see what happens when this video drops. Plus having to upgrade your Arctic Armor constantly while leveling with Spirit Gems, and you also have to keep up with the cold and spell skills on your Wand and Amulet. If you're down for all of this, it was a really fun leveling process, and it was pretty fast, but it does require a goofy setup and some cost. For defenses, again, we are armor stacking with Veil of the Night. My gear is pretty trash, but I feel really tanky right now. 3300 life with 40k armor in combat leads to most elemental damage not one-shotting me because of the elemental conversion with armor. I really wish I had another 10,000 armor and 1000 life though. The main thing I added that saved my tankiness was the Undying Hate of Amannamu. Sacrifice of Flesh. When taking damage from hits, 20% of life loss is prevented. Then 150% of that life loss prevented this way is lost over 4 seconds. This is a death sentence for AFK face tanking, but since we really only want to get hit once and then we roll around spreading Ignite, this is actually a massive defensive layer. It's an okay bosser and mapper. When adding Fiery Death when mapping, it actually helps with the clear a little bit. It's pretty good at Simulacrum, but it's not great for AFK Simulacrum. The way Arctic Armor works is the more stages it has, the harder it hits. But you lose a stage when you take a hit. So you really just want to get hit once, have a 10-stage Arctic Armor Ignite rolling out there, and then you just kite around. If you AFK'd with Arctic Armor, you would actually just eventually hit 0 stages, and then you would have a very weak and pitiful Ignite for Crackle Creep, which would just fizzle out and then you'd get overwhelmed. So this is amazing at Sim, but not AFK Sim. There is a technique using Adonia's Ego where the damage you do when you consume power charges contributes to all elements, but I didn't want to itemize around this. I think this one has the highest potential for this style though. Lastly, one of the biggest problems with Crackle Creep is its delay and its radius. There really is no way around this. Ingenuity Belt doesn't scale it, there's no way to corrupt its radius up, Presence radius doesn't impact it. You have to butt hug your enemies to get Ignite on them. Once it starts spreading, it's usually fine, especially when there's density. If you add on Fiery Death though, I found it helped a little bit with the AoE clear, especially during something like Abyss. Once my damage got higher, this felt like overkill. Ignite was usually enough to handle everything on its own while it spread. But Fiery Death was able to secure some extra kills here and there, so maybe better XP per hour. It's a goofy setup that can really be min-maxed a lot of different ways. I'm still in the early stages of this build. I need to invest more currency into it, but so far it's a blast. Alright, let's dive in. Alright, before we fully dive into the overview, just know that I'm still very early on with this build, and the defenses of it might be completely reworked. So if you're someone who doesn't want to waste any currency, maybe wait a few days before you dive into this, just so I can flesh out the defenses more. I'm feeling pretty tanky right now, but I'm still a little bit rippy when it comes to elemental damage, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to solve that with more currency, like just leaning into the style more, or if I'm going to completely pivot away from Veil of the Night. And when you're playing Veil of the Night, you're running no elemental res. As you can see here, Veil of the Night makes your elemental resistance 0, but it increases your maximum life by 50%. So you don't need to get any elemental resistance on your gear when you're playing Veil of the Night. Now there is a chance that I pivot away from Veil of the Night eventually, and I just go pure armor stacking with a bunch of rares. And at that point, I'm going to have to buy brand new gear that has resistances and stuff on them. So, just know that, like, if we eventually pivot away from Veil of the Night, that you're gonna have to rebuy a lot of your armor. So if you're someone who's avoiding something like that, you know, maybe wait a few days before diving into this build. But yeah, another Arctic Armor build. I've done one in 0.1 and in 0.2, and we are back with 0.3. In 0.1, it was Poison, Prolif. In 0.2, I did Trample Toe Crit with a Blood Mage, and now we are doing Ignite Prolif with a Gemling. Yeah, the core of the build is, of course, this little passive up here, self-immolation. Ignites you cause are reflected back to you, and it's so cool. Yeah, I mean, as you see in the video, I hit really hard with Arctic Armor. I'm at 10 stacks right now. Currently, it's 308,000 damage per use. That gets converted into an Ignite, and then you're literally, if this is the enemy or a boss, you're literally just dancing around it. You don't have to get hit again, and that Ignite just, it hits them, reflects back to you, hits them, reflects back to you, and it's just an infinite loop capturing that, and it's just really cool. The harder your Arctic Armor can hit, the more that Ignite's going to do. I know you might be tempted to lean into Ignite scaling, magnitude, and whatnot. Arctic Armor hits hard enough that you should really only be focusing on scaling Arctic Armor's damage. If you can go Critical Strike, you know, there's a lot of like things that's like ambush where you have a higher % critical strike chance versus full life enemies and stuff. There is a chance that you can just lean fully into Arctic Armor and you'll get closer to the numbers I have with my Blood Mage. My Blood Mage last patch was critting Arctic Armor for 4 to 5 million. And if you're hitting for that hard with Arctic Armor, I'm only hitting for 300,000. That 4 to 5 million Arctic Armor gets converted into an Ignite and GG, right? It's probably a bit overkill at that point. You might as well just play full crit at that point. But yeah, just talking about just Arctic Armor in general, the goal is getting it to hit as hard as possible. That's part of the reason why we're Gemling the +2 gem skills. There's a lot of ways to get to Arctic Armor level 40 right now. Keep in mind, my wand is only a 1-socket. I could have a 3-socket wand, and inside wands you can put +1 spell skill runes, which I have none of. So if I had a 3-socket wand, or with a slightly different setup here and there, I could easily hit gem level 40 with Arctic Armor. 37 is a very specific breakpoint. It's where you get the last bonus stage. Arctic Armor hits harder per stage it has. There's multiple ways you get more stages. A, you level up the gem skill, and B, quality. The more stages, the better. So at level 37 is that last stage you get from levels. If you get level 40 Arctic Armor, there is no additional stage there, and then you get additional stages from quality. If you had maximum quality, which I believe is a little over 60%, you could get up to 11 stages of Arctic Armor. You would have to be giving up a lot of defenses or certain itemizations, annoyance, megalomaniacs and stuff to be able to hit that 60% quality for the extra stage. If you have a level 40 Arctic Armor with 11 stages of quality from the quality, that might be the best way to mathematically scale Arctic Armor. I don't know. I haven't tried running this through Path of Building yet. I haven't run the numbers on this. There's just so many ways to scale Arctic Armor's damage as high as possible, and I have to min-max around that too yet. So I don't know if you're going to see this chest running a bunch of quality runes with me running, what is this one called? The Cunning Fox for more quality here. I mean, obviously I've got the Darkness Enthroned with the quality runes in them, so I can get more additional quality for my skills. That's how I have it, the quality on Arctic Armor so high. But the point is, there is so many ways to scale up Arctic Armor's damage. You want this to hit as hard as possible so that you are then igniting. For as hard as possible. And yeah, there's just many ways to scale that damage. Again, I don't even have level 40 Arctic Armor yet, and we're potentially missing a whole nother stage, which with those two combined could be putting this style up to 1,000,000 damage. I'm not sure yet. You know, that's going to be very expensive to get there, and I am pretty broke. But yeah, it's a really cool build again, so you just get hit with Arctic Armor and then the poison starts spreading. Now, before we start getting into the jewels, as you can see here, my support gem capacity up here, I have 10 strength jewels, 10 dex jewels, and 10 int jewels. This is very specific and for a reason. A lot of these jewels I'm about to show you guys will not make much sense, but there are a few passives and ascendancy things that work this way. So you have Gem Enthusiasts, where if you have at least 10 of these, you're going to get a buff, right? So that's one of the reasons why I just have 10 of each of these passives or these color types in here. However, this also works and it stacks with gem-studded and integrated efficiency. Most importantly, gem-studded. For each color of socketed support gem that is most numerous, gain. Red hits against you have no critical damage bonus. Blue skills have 30% less mana cost, and green skills have 40% less movement penalty from using skills while moving. If you have an even distribution of all three, you get all three of them. You get all three of them, which is super cool. And then, of course, you have integrated efficiency, which just buffs certain skills and whatnot. This is less important. This is giving a good amount of damage towards Arctic Armor just by having the 2 red gems. Maybe it's possible that I have to work in more red gems later. But I just wanted to point out that with gem studded, having an even distribution of them, if they're all most numerous, you get all 3 effects. And then, of course, with this one down here, Gem Enthusiast, where I get all these buffs for having at least 10 of the support gems. That's why I have 10 of each. So some of these are just filled with colored nonsense to, like, just round out the plus 10. So, yeah, let's just go into that. So, yeah, and Power Siphon, this is just for my wand. I have this is an example of color nonsense, of me just trying to fill out the colors that I needed. Clearly, I'm not using many greens, so I had to get extra greens here. So in Arctic Armor, we are using Cold Mastery, Zenith 2, Controlled Destruction, Searing Flame, and Ignite 2. Now, Zenith is awesome. We are basically always at full mana. We don't have any damage taken before mana right now. We're barely ever using mana. The only time we use mana is whenever we're casting like Elemental Weakness and Frostbomb on bosses sometimes, or sometimes when we're Resonating Shield for Armor Break. But for the most part, we're at full mana. So we're basically at always 30% more damage from Zenith 2. And then Control Destruction. We're not playing a crit version right now. I know that kind of sucks because we are running the critical hit chance from here, but I was not finding, like, as a Gemling, it's just so hard to lean into Critical Strike without, like, giving up a bunch of defenses with my current setup. So it may be possible to play a crit execute version, a crit ambush version, where you have this anointed or something, first approach, where you just have like a bunch of extra critical hit chance versus enemies that are low life, so you can try and make that or a full life, so you can try and make that first hit always crit, and all it really matters is the first crit. So if you get that first crit ignite, Arctic Armor, and you have that big ignite, you're just rolling around keeping that one going, right? So it could work. I haven't had the gear or the investment time to go into it. Now, there are two lineage support gems we should talk about, Rakiata's Flow and Delia's. Delia's would give us +1 to skills, as well as 10 quality, which is one of the ways we hit 60 quality. And then Rakiata's Flow does an inversion of Elemental Res. Now, from what I understand, Elemental Res Rakiata's Flow will just make Arctic Armor hit harder, but it won't lead to the Ignite being bigger. People in the chat can confirm that. I don't have Delia's or Rakiata's Flow to test these interactions yet, but from my understanding, if we were to use Rakiata's Flow, it would make Arctic Armor hit harder for sure, but that inversion of resistances doesn't imply to flammability or something, is how it was explained to me. Again, don't have Rakiata's Flow. I haven't tested it. If someone has it, wants to test it, and they can confirm in the comments if it's good or bad or whatever, sure. But since we're playing an Ignite style, I don't really want to make Arctic Armor hit harder if it's not making the Ignite do more. So if I were to add a lineage support gem, Delia's, that's +1 gem skill level and then 10% quality. That 10% quality would put me at, what is my quality on Arctic Armor right now? 42%. So that would put me at 52%. So I would just need to get 8% more, which would come from the sockets that go into potentially the body armor, or we can get 5% from here. So there is a way to get up to 60% quality if I had Delia's. It's expensive. It's like a 17 divine purchase right now. So it's not on the table right now. I'm probably going to be farming soon to try and pimp this character out eventually. But yeah, just want to talk about that, the potential of those two being slotted in here. I just don't have the currency for it. Inside Resonating Shield, Armor Demolisher, Magnified Area, Steadfast 2, Rapid Attacks 2, and Mobility. These are all normal. None of these are throwaway. Some of these are throwaway. Cooldown Recovery, Blind. Potent Exposure for more exposure. Elemental Focus. In Elemental Focus, I put it in both Frostbomb and Magma Barrier because I did not want them to accidentally ignite stuff to, like, override some of my other ignites. I don't know if that's an actual fear I should have with this style, but I just, yeah, I put Elemental Focus on them just so they weren't fucking with ignites somehow. And then Second Wind as the last one. Again, a lot of this is just trying to fill out the colors for specifically. I just specifically slotted in Frostbomb colors that I needed. And then Magma Barrier, we have Charge Profusion, Elemental Focus, Immolate, and Fire Attunement. Immolate clearly isn't doing anything. And Fire Attunement isn't doing really much. Like, I'm not really doing, you know, Magma Barrier for this build. The Magma Barrier is purely for the block chance, and we are getting a lot of block chance because you get additional block chance from that quality. So if you did end up going up to 60% quality, or 60 quality for, you know, globally for both Arctic Armor and Magma Barrier somehow, then you would be able to drop some of the block chance passives, freeing up some passives to do other stuff. So just something to think about here. That if you did go higher quality than me, that makes the block chance for Magma Barrier better. Scavenge Plating for armor break and getting a higher percentage of armor. We just want to be, we're doing 0 elemental res, and all of our elemental absorption is coming from armor elemental conversion. So of our armor, we have about 40,000 outside of, or I guess 32,000 outside of combat. In combat with Scavenge Plating, it's closer to 45,000, 40,000-ish. So yeah, with all the you know, getting hit recently stuff. So yeah, I wish that was a bit higher. I would like to be closer to 60, 80,000 armor if I was running 0 resistances. Again, I'm on a really bad budget, so I would love to re-itemize. Again, 2 of these pieces have elemental res on them. I think even one of the rings does too. So like 3 of the pieces have elemental res on them that, like, if I was fully leaning into Veil of the Night, I would have like pure armor rolls with strength and like other, like, you know, sockets and stuff. So yeah, the itemization could be way better to get tankier. Elemental weakness, I will probably put support gems in it for the mobilytics. I don't know why I don't have anything in it right now. I really don't use elemental weakness right now. It just makes Arctic armor hit harder, which is great. But I mean, again, maybe I am, maybe like my understanding of it is wrong. But for my understanding, elemental res with magnitude is not super important for the ignite. It makes the Arctic armor hit harder, which, you know, if you're actually going to just eat multiple hits, which some bosses you do, just kind of sit there and let them slap on you over and over because their attack pattern is so slow that it's not burning through all of your stages of Arctic armor. Yeah, I haven't really tested much with like how impactful elemental res and all these things are for magnitude. Yeah, we're just getting into endgame. And then Incinerate. So Incinerate is just, again, it's filling out some of the colors here. I just threw random stuff into it. I actually don't know how to play Incinerate right now. The main reason it was taken was for, there's random moments where you just like buy an enemy that you don't have the Ignite rolling and they're not going to melee strike you. So Incinerate can finish them off. I was mainly using this during the campaign. I've used it like 2 to 3 times in endgame. It's almost purely was during the campaign versus like 3 to 4 bosses. For the most part, it's just Arctic armor. You get hit, you get the Ignite, and then you're just dodge rolling around. Talking about the gear. So again, because I'm doing the Veil of the Night armor stacking style, you really just want as much armor as humanly possible. You want % of armor applies to elemental damage on all of your gear. You want it on gloves too. I don't have it on gloves. On your gloves and boots, you probably want bonus effect of sockets, and then you're going to want as much armor on them and as stats on them as max life as possible. It's about juicing your max life as high as you can and juicing your armor as high as you can. That's it. You really want just high armor and high max life if you're doing the Veil of the Night cheese. If I was not going to do the Veil of the Night cheese, I would just be doing standard armor stacking. So if you're too concerned about like the potential of the Veil of the Night armor stacking not fully playing out with currency investment, or you're avoiding that kind of currency investment because this is kind of an awkward thing to purchase for right now, just play normal armor stacking, you know, with rare helmets. So you just get elemental reset, get your max elemental res and chaos res set up, and get as much maximum life and armor as possible. I would love to keep pushing this Veil of the Night style. I would love to get a little closer to 4,500, 5,000 life, with as much armor as possible. It's kind of hard to do that, but, you know, we'll see what happens, and you might ultimately see me pivoting. You might see me pivoting away from that. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So outside of the armor pieces, Darkness Enthroned for body armor with the Fox Talisman, that's 2% quality to all skills, and then of course inside Darkness Enthroned with 100% effect, that makes it, you know, 8% quality to all skills. Crackle Creep is required. Get one with a high increased fire damage. There's no corruption for the Ignite spread. There's nothing you can do for that. Just get one with as much fire damage as possible. Mine's 43%. Your other ring, you do want increased fire damage, as you can see here. It's about 30,000 damage from my ring. So, increased fire damage is nice. You also get 20% increased spell damage while on full energy shield. That is cool. It's hit or miss. On bosses, it's up a lot. Especially when you're using block, because like if you block the shot, if they melee hit you, it still does the Arctic Armor Reflect for full damage, and you take no damage from it. So you can maintain full energy shield. That's why I got the energy shield neck, was so I could try messing around with this Abyss modifier. I don't actually know if it's good or not. It was just something. When I was browsing rings, I was like, oh, let's try this. And then I bought an amulet for it, so I had some energy shield. I don't know how important that modifier is, but when you're doing the Veil of the Night style and you have your second ring, the second ring is literally just going to be for increased fire damage, strength, max life, rarity, chaos res, because there's no other things on the ring that matter. So maybe this increased spell damage while on full energy shield. it ends up playing out. Yeah, just get as much armor and maximum life as you can, and then of course Chernobog. So Chernobog increases your fire damage per chance to block. Let's see what my damage goes down to without it. Oh, like almost like 100,000 damage from losing the Chernobog plus the block scaling. So we have, of course, Lay Siege, which is 1% increased damage per 1% chance to block, which we are currently at 53% chance to block. And then, of course, you get the fire damage bonus from Chernobog per chance to block. So a lot of damage there. You know, I could still potentially go for the max block chance here for defensive stance for more damage. Right now, I'm pushing towards Polymathy just so I can have increased attribute so I'm tankier. I'm trying to get to 4,500, 5,000 life if possible. So that's why I was going to Polymathy, but it might be better for like damage and survivability to lean into the max block and stuff. But yeah, that's it for the gear. On the amulet, sorry, you will probably want max life and percent increase max life. +3 spell skills. Strength on it would be nice, percent increase spell damage, but you really just want to get as much life as possible. I need to get an amulet with percent increase maximum life on it, honestly. That would be my next big upgrade. And then on the Anoint, I have Burnout. Burnout right now is ignites you, inflict deal damage 15% faster. Again, I haven't ran this build through Path of Building. I don't know what's mathematically better. Just when I saw this, I was just like, oh, okay, so my Ignite's hitting hard, or my Arctic Armor's hitting hard, it's doing a big Ignite. This seems like it would just be a great way to scale that damage. It's just 15% faster. I don't know, though. This could be bait. Someone in the comments might let me know. Yeah, so let's talk about the passives right now. First of all, again, the leveling tree is going to look weird. Leveling with this was because, like, the way I started it was I booked it straight for this point here, 1 with Flame, so I had the 50% reduced magnitude on it, and then I put the From Nothing for Pain Attunement in it, and that allowed me to get Self-Immolation and Ignite Magnitude on you right here for the 100% reduced magnitude. So you can start leveling once you get to 1 with Flame, Avatar Fire, and then have the From Nothing for the 3 points here. That was like 26 or 27 for me. But yeah, it's an interesting leveling build. So let's talk about the Ascendancy real quick. First 2 points into Crystalline Potential for the quality, and then into Neurological Implants for the +2 level skills with all intellect requirements. So that's just +2 skills to Arctic Armor. Third and fourth points go into Gem Studded, and then Integrated Efficiency. Alright, so pathing, we're going to go down to Lay Siege, we're going to get Relentless and Sturdy Metal for the more body armor. Polished Iron is amazing for any armor stacking builds. You literally never get stunned because of it. Coming through here, this is where I put my Undying Hate. I do not believe it matters what Undying Hate you get, as long as it is a tribute to Amanamu. Tributes to Amanamu always turn Keystones, as far as I'm aware, into Sacrifice of Flesh. So as long as you put an Amanamu here, doesn't matter which timeless Undying Hate it is, this node here will always turn into Sacrifice of Flesh. And based off how I'm currently pathing, we don't need anything in this area. We don't need anything in this area. So it just allows you to get a very easy Sacrifice of Flesh. Now, what Timeless Hates do, Undying Hates do, is they turn a lot of the other passives in the areas into other things. It is possible that you find one that turns one of these passes into something that's great for the build, and you might want to pivot for it. Unfortunately, there's no calculator for these still, and it doesn't sound like there's going to be one anytime soon. So you just kind of have to YOLO buy these and hope that one of these passes in these areas is good for your build. I checked all of mine, none of them are. So you might want to get one with that reads something like this. Conquered Attribute passive skills also grant +5 to Strength. So that +5 to Strength is just a little bit extra life. So in terms of min-maxing the Undying Hate, there is a possibility that you get something freaking crazy on one of these nodes. Like if you ended up with something like right here or right here, that's only 3 passes for you to scoop up. That was just an amazing buff for the build. You know, you might be able to lean into some of this tribute nonsense, but I don't think you need to do that. Just get a Amanamu. Amanamu always turns Sacrifice of Flesh, or a Keystone, one of these things, into Sacrifice of Flesh, and then try and get one with the tribute passives, also grant +2 Strength. That'll get you a little bit more life. Okay, so pathing down here, we get tempered defenses for elemental armor. We're doing strength stacking, so I figured damage per 15 strength. This is just more armor with leather-bound gauntlets and iron reflexes. Gem enthusiast for the more life, more movement speed, and more mana. Again, I am currently at level 90. I'm 2 passive points away from getting polymathy just for more attributes, trying to get as much life as possible. I don't know if this is going to end up worth it or not. Major Last is 50% of physical damage prevented recouped as life. We're doing a good amount of recoup healing right now, combined with, the life loss prevented from sacrifice of flesh. Recoup pairs very well with this. I have 2 recoup soul cores in my helmet to help with that. And at one point, I was pathed to heart tissue as well. I have currently decided to stop pathing towards heart tissue because I am going for polymathy. If polymathy doesn't work out, you just go for heart tissue as a defensive layer. Pathing this way, again, Avatar Fire, it's core to the build. Now, there are weird ways where you can drop Avatar Fire. I have dropped Avatar Fire and only used Chernobog Fire Scaling to get the Ignite, and it worked for mapping. But if you really wanted it to be Ignite Arctic Armor, you just need to lean fully into it. It was ending up being a hybrid build where, like, you're wanting to kill bosses with Arctic Armor, but the Ignite was kind of pitiful for bosses, but the Ignite was good enough for mapping. At that point, it just felt like, why not just play Trample Toe and do, like, 5 million damage crits? So, with how I'm playing it, you have to play Avatar Fire. Fulmination for more magnitude and more damage against enemy hits that are ignited. Then this, okay, of course, you have to have one with flame. One with flame is for the reduced magnitude on you. If you do not have the 100% reduced magnitude yourself, when you hit for 500,000 damage Arctic armor and you ignite, you are going to instantly kill yourself. You have to make sure you get that reduced damage of flame ability. And make sure, by the way, there are pieces of gear. I believe it's only on body armors, maybe, but it might be other slots. You can get reduced ignite duration on yourself as a modifier on gear. Don't do that. We want ignite duration on ourselves. We don't want to reduce it. Prism Guard for the elemental res, projectile bulwark for defending with more armor, wide barrier for more block chance, and then coming up here we get molten carapace, self-immolation, and molten being for survivability. Now, Prism of Belief, Arctic armor, +3 skills. Hopefully you can get a +3 or +2. But yeah, I have no idea what the market's going to look like. I bought mine for 4 divine. So, I don't know what they're going to be at when you watch this video. Inside my Megalomaniac, I currently have Endless Blizzard for the +1 cold skills, just to get my Arctic armor higher. Again, I wanted to hit level 37. You might not need this ultimately if you had a wand with more spell skills. Again, I don't know if it's important how important it is to go all the way to 40. Probably important, but 37 is the important breakpoint for that quality, or for that extra stage. So that's why I made sure I had the +1 cold skills, because it just got me to 37. And then the other thing in it is Melting Flames. I just happened to find one with Endless Blizzard and Melting Flames. Endless Blizzard is the one that you want. Melting Flames is okay. The reason I don't have Melting Flames is we don't really care about increased ignite duration on enemies at all. While Melting Flames is a cool effect, it's 4 points, with 3 of them being wasted. So if you don't end up having Melting Flames, it's fine. Now, I do want to talk about this entire Ignite section up here. When I was leveling through the campaign, I actually pathed all the way up here. I was using Arcana Flame, I had actually pathed the Burnout, and I had pathed the Volcanic Skin. This is where Infernalist is just going to do better in terms of Ignite DPS, I think. They're just like, they're not going to have to be pathed down to Avatar Fire. They might be able to do Energy Shield stacking and not have to do Armor stacking, though Armor stacking to me just feels better when you're taking multiple hits, which we don't really need to do with this style. But yeah, just keep in mind that, like, this area is a hot spot for a bunch of Ignite stuff. You have a bunch of, like, Ignite magnitude and fire damage stuff. And there's also this Ignite stuff over here. Yeah, I'm trying to be as tanky as possible, and because of the Veil of the Night style I'm doing, it's just too hard to stretch this far over here. Again, I already talked about the Undying Hate, and then in my Heart of the Well, I am currently doing gain % of damage as extra fire damage, increased stun threshold, and increased armor from equipped body armor. This was a Heart of the Well that I had in my stash. I am very broke right now. Let me show you my currency. Oh, fuck. There's a barren wasteland out here, boys. Yeah, I'm out of currency. I need to go farm on my Witch Hunter and just sit, like, probably all day tomorrow. I'm going to stream some Trilosecamos farming and just get a bunch of currency so I can upgrade this guy a lot further. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked too much into the Heart of Wells. Obviously, if you're armor stacking with a high body armor, you're going to want % increase armor from equipped body armor and gain damage as extra fire damage for sure. For sure. And then, yeah, it's just really about, like, maximizing your life when you can. Just get as much strength and max life as you can, because, yeah, if we're doing the Veil of the Night style, you need a lot of max life and a lot of armor to pair with it. And it's doing okay so far on the budget I am on. And I don't have elemental armor conversion on these gloves, and, like, yeah, this gear could get way better. So just keep that in mind, that while I'm still a little hesitant on the defenses, and we very well may pivot, yeah, maybe it just needs more currency to solve. But the Arctic Armor Ignite Prolif, or whatever you want to call it, Righteous Fire, Fulmination, nonsense, like whatever you want to label this build as, so far it's working and it's fun, and I'm hoping we can optimize it just a little bit further and hopefully make this a good Simulacrum build at the best, or at the worst. But yeah, I would love this to just be better for bossing and stuff, so and just overall mapping. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the build, and see you in the next one.